as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Aaron Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to another edition of New Voices. My name is Aaron Wiggum. I am your host. I'm founder and managing director of New You. New You is a way for individuals to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. However, New Voices, it serves as a megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational or pivotal experiences and are here to tell their story. We have a wonderful guest. We've had a little bit of a break, a little bit of a hiatus, and we're coming back with fury with this new guest. She brings so much energy to the room. I met her a few years ago when I first moved to Tulsa, and the first time it was like cousins meeting. I met her and she was already my cousin, y'all. So she's absolutely amazing. This woman is sharp. She is equipped. She is not ashamed. She is very a powerhouse. I can't wait for you to join in this conversation as we bring to this platform my good friend, my sister, my homie, my yo-yo, the one and only Jameelah Stuckey. Woo!
Hey, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. This is my girl here. We're gonna have a good conversation. So welcome to the platform, Jameelah.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very grateful and excited. I know I had to who bang on you a little bit in the comments on LinkedIn, like, why I ain't got on the New Voices? And so now I'm here and I'm grateful for it.
Yes.
So grateful.
Yeah, no, we're glad that you accepted the opportunity. Thank you so much. So my first question, I ask every guest, I'll lead off with this. What is the Jameelah Stuckey story? And you can start from wherever you like.
So the Jameelah Stuckey story is one that's like interesting, right? And it has a lot of turns and differences and differentiations. So I'm from South LA, round the way. And I went to FAMU undergrad. And my dad was like, my dad is very old school. And he's Nation of Islam, Muslim all day.
Okay.
So when we first started having the conversation about college, it was like, no, you're going to HBCU.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. I love it. Got it. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. And he like slid a paper across the desk and was like, these are the things I'm paying for.
Right.
And anything that's not on that list, I'm not paying for.
Okay.
And of course, what I wanted to do was on the not pay for list.
Exactly.
So I picked business and I did finance and accounting at FAMU. And then while I was there, I was a teller.
Okay.
And I took a chance. I literally would go to interviews on my lunch break. And I had like a 30, 45-minute lunch break. And I was around the corner from FAMU. I wasn't eating or nothing. I was changing in the car and I run up there and I do an interview and I come back to work. And so I did that and it really paid off because I got an offer to be an intern in Tampa, Florida, with the bank, with Bank of America. I did treasury and credit sales for middle market and business banking clients.
Nice.
Which means I had clients that made up to $5 billion in revenue. And so I did that for some time. And then when I left that, because of what I learned at FAMU in the forum, I asked a lot of questions, presented myself a certain way.
Yeah.
I left with like 6 different offers, right? To go to 6 different locations within Bank of America, which was awesome. I ended up picking LA, going back home. I did that for some time. I did middle market. I did business banking, got promoted and relocated, moved to Chicago. And what's so interesting too about that story with me is that everybody else was like getting their opportunity. And I was like, well, where's mine? Like, when am I get mine? And let me tell you where I don't want to go, Lord. Like, I don't want to go to New York. I don't want to go to Chicago. I don't want to go here. And he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Keep
Chicago.
playing. Right. And then here comes Chi-Town. And I was like, now, you know, I'm anemic and don't like to be cold. Why would you do that?
Yep.
So I got that opportunity, went out there and did that. I did commercial card sales for Visa, MasterCard with the bank. So I did US and Canada.
Oh, nice.
Did that for some time. And then I was like, this is not like legacy building. This is me helping other people do what they want to do and they getting that they rebate and their money back. This is not supporting me or my community. And so the need that I saw was education. So I was like, okay, what do I do? How do I get an education? And high key, I used to always resent it and like education because my mother was an educator and her and I don't have the best relationship and I really want to be like her like that. So I was like, I'm not doing it. And then I was like, okay, let me see what it's talking about.
Yeah.
So I did AmeriCorps Vista. I moved back to LA. You asked my dad, I was volunteering, wasn't getting paid. He was like, I don't know what she going through. I don't know what type of struggle, but she crazy. And so did that for some time. I absolutely loved it. Like
Okay.
it didn't pay well, but it was one of the most fruitful experiences I've had in my life.
Okay.
And so I was able to do that. And I did college and career for LAUSD for a long time. I stayed in the education space. And then I was like, okay, I need to get more education about education. So I went back to school, still staying true to my roots. I got an MBA,
Okay.
but then I also got my master's in teaching.
Okay.
And that time is when I started teaching.
Got it.
So I taught middle school, I taught high school. I was a co-teacher, a co-principal, a founding principal.
Oh my goodness.
And so I founded, I know there's a lot going on. And that's what happens when you work for them, like in the inner city and they find out you got a little skill.
Right.
You're going to do everything.
They throw you in everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
So I did that and we started something with Connections Academy. So it's online school. And this is before the pandemic, for the virus. Okay. So it was kind of like looked at weird and people were like, this is not really going to work. These kids ain't really going to do that. But it worked well because it was an alternative way for students to engage who came from alternative lifestyles and backgrounds. Right.
Yeah.
And so it really was an awesome time. And so when I graduated, I applied for Education Pioneers. And going back to that point of you have to ask for what you need, it may not always be presented to you. They came up with these options, and one was like San Francisco Unified School District and something else. And I was like, is this all the options? And she was like, well, I can share the other ones with you, but I feel like you're overqualified for them. I was like, well, run the other ones.
Yeah, let me hear
like,
what else
let
you
me
got.
tell me I'm overqualified.
Yeah.
So got there and I saw Tulsa and I was like, oh, okay, I could do Tulsa. Let's see what they talking about. And so I was only supposed to be here for 8 weeks and like a true Black Caribbean South Central person, I had like 8 jobs, right? So I showed up and I was like, look, I need y'all to be a little flexible. They were super flexible, super awesome. I worked for the Opportunity Project here, was supposed to be here, like I said, for 8 weeks. Was here, I think, my second week, third day. And they were like, so would you like to do this full time? We would love to have you come on and help support with Walt Whitman Elementary and other schools. And I was like, cool, lovely, great, why not? But in following that, it was easy for me to make that move and transition and that like, yes, very quickly.
Yeah.
Because before I left, I was connected with the wonderful Anne. She's lovely. And I had messaged Anne, let's say 5 months before that. No response, no nothing. I leave Saturday. She emails me Friday at 3 and says, hey, if you're still interested, we have like 2 apartments open downtown. We'd love to have you come see them. I was like, perfect. Because when I moved back, I would have been on the streets, homeless, looking crazy, because I had no place to stay. So I looked at them and I picked the one that I'm literally still in, the one same building you used to live.
Yeah.
The same apartment. And I was there. And I absolutely loved it. So to me, that showed alignment and it showed purpose. It was like, okay, this is where you're supposed to be, Mila. So I did that and worked for the Opportunity Project. When I left the Opportunity Project, I started working for TNTP, an organization I work for now, which is a national education nonprofit. And then I got a call from Carlisha, and she called me and was like, hey, I know you're not working at the Opportunity Project no more. Are you interested in this new opportunity? I was like, yeah, let's see what they're talking about. Oh, okay, I'll connect you with Allison. And she said Allison, like Allison, the homegirl down the street, Allison next door, somebody mama. It's Allison Anthony.
Yeah.
And I was like, hello?
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, let's talk. Are you interested? It was another thing. I think you're overqualified for the role, but I think that you might enjoy it. Just talk to Peggy.
Yeah.
They said Peggy, like Peggy from Marge or from The Simpsons or someplace else. And I was like, who is Peggy? It's the Peggy Simmons, who was the president, right?
Yes.
For PSO. So there was that. I had a conversation with her. I don't know who the other person was who was in the running for it. But after we had the conversation, I got the call back for TNTP on Wednesday. I got the call back from AALA on Thursday. And most people would have been like, I can only do one or the other. I'm not doing it.
Right.
So I said,
no, you coming from 8 jobs.
Right. I said, no, I can work this out,
Yeah,
right? I was like, there has to be a reason for this. And so I did that. I said yes. And I was like, look, I can only give y'all a couple months. And he's like, all right, good. 5 years later, I'm still doing both of the things, right? And love it. Absolutely love it. And I'm so grateful for it.
Nice.
but that has kind of brought me to where I am now.
Yeah.
I am ninth of 10 children. So
Woo.
I'm the youngest girl. I have a younger brother. I know it's a lot of us.
Wow.
And you know, my parents are a mixture of Southern, Caribbean, Native, all the things. And so the upbringing was very different. It was Christian and Muslim, and I was able to decide there. So my parents started me off on a journey of like making your own decisions and leaning into what you want to do. So that's me.
Wow, that's beautiful. Way to put all that in there together.
Right.
That's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
So let me ask you, when you're talking about, and I just want to go back through some of these time periods a little bit. When you're coming up and you're in this home, you have 8 brothers and sisters, right? You said you're 9 of.
Yeah, I'm 9 of 10.
You're 9 of 10.
So
okay.
I have one younger brother.
Okay, so you have 9 brothers and sisters. And so as you start to think about that time period, right? What were some of the things that helped birth you into who you are today? Like when you there has to be some rigor. There was some you know, some challenges and some obstacles that really have cultivated you into this powerhouse of a woman that you are before me today.
Yes, thank you for that. So some of the pivotal moments for me, the first start when I was way back in the day, young. I told you my mother was an educator. And so my mom had me and my siblings like reading books and doing book reports for her. That part. There was not a grade. There was no participation award. It was just like, no, you're going to read this book and write the paper.
You're going to do that or get this belt.
That's it.
Pick one.
Those are the options. You had an option, right? But those are the ones. And so I read Nancy Drew stories and the Hardy Boys.
Oh, my sister
Leaves
used to
Under the
love
Sea.
them. Yeah.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
And
Anne of Green Gables.
Yeah. All of those.
Yeah. Sweet Valley High. My sister.
I still have all those books.
My sister used to have the whole library of all of. Yeah, I got you.
That's me. I absolutely loved it. And so it started there. My mother was like, not only did she like have us do book reports, she would actually like grade them and have us go back and redo it if we needed to. And at first I was like, she just what in the Cruella de Vil? Like, what in the doggone Cinderella's going on here? Like, why are you treating me like this?
Yeah.
And then when I got to school, it was interesting because I realized that I was far ahead of my peers academically.
Yep.
But because I have ADHD and I'm neurodiverse, and they didn't know what that was back then, I was like ping-ponging off the walls, right?
Yeah.
And so it was interesting because my mother prepared me for it academically. Like nobody can say that you're stupid. Nobody can hold you back. No, you got this.
Yep.
But your energy levels, we got to work on it.
Right.
And so that was one pivotal moment. Another pivotal moment was when within the ADHD part, I became one of like the test kids for Ritalin back in the day.
Okay.
And so I started going through these trials and you had to take this pill and then report out and then do this. And they observed you, all of the things. And at the end of it, they were like, well, do you want her to be on it or not? And it was interesting because my mother was like, absolutely yes. My father was like, absolutely not. No. Ain't nothing wrong with my baby.
Right.
If she want to focus, she can focus. Right. And it was interesting.
You like, no, I can't.
Right. I was like, y'all have to give me something. Because the way I done got kicked out of this school 4 times, okay? Listen.
No, I can't focus.
Okay? And at that point, my grandmother and my great-grandmother, so I grew up with a lot of generations. So my grandmother and my great-grandmother were also in the room. And my great-grandmother was like, I'll pay for it.
Right.
Give us something.
Yeah, let her sit down somewhere.
And this is old school. She used to call me sister.
Okay.
That's how you know it's old school. She was like, sister needs something, right? And so we went with she doesn't need it. And that we'll just put some structures in place for her to figure out like what works best for her.
Right.
And that was a beautiful moment, but also interesting moment because I saw that there was able to be communication, like positive communication through generations, and that we can come up with this solution and that I can solve my own issues as they present themselves.
I don't need a village.
A literal village.
Yeah, wow.
And so that was beautiful for me. So that was were 2 kind of pivotal moments in that part, like elementary part. Middle school part was different because my father went back to prison and I had to live with my grandfather for a little bit. And then I had to live with my mom and then my auntie. Like I was like all different places. And at that time I was going to Cecil Murray Educational Center, love CMAC. And CMAC is a fabulous place. If you know First AME or remember like how the AME church got started, the First AME is in LA.
Got it.
The pastor of that church is Chip Murray. He's the founder of my school. That's why it's called Cecil Murray. That's his name.
Okay.
And so we are there doing the thing. And Cecil Murray costs money because it's a private school.
Okay.
So you got things you got to pay. You got uniforms, all kind of things. And it was interesting. It was interesting because one, I was dating this gangster.
Uh-oh. Come on.
He was my first boyfriend. And
Let
he
me
was
get my tea out.
Look, listen, if he had got locked up, they wouldn't let him out. Okay.
Wouldn't let him out.
Right. And he had sent the homeboys to walk me to the bus stop, right? So I could get home safely. So there was that part of it. Then you had my father's part of it that we own. We were one of the only people on our blocks to own our home.
Okay.
And we had the home for generations.
Yep.
So we own the home. He's not there. He's sending money. We trying to figure out, what's going on. And then you have the beautiful, wonderful people at the school who were like, we know that she got a lot going on and what she dealing with. We not even going, don't even, when you can pay.
Yeah.
But we not kicking her out.
Right.
Jameelah here, right? That's family.
Yeah.
And so that was another pivotal moment there because that was really the first time I ever took the bus, to be honest with you. Like I had to take the bus. Every other time it was an option. This time I had to get home. I had to take that 135 or that 207, go straight down Western to get to the house. And I engaged and interacted with other students and other people. And that was interesting for me to see that.
Yeah.
So that moment taught me like definitely more resilience, but it was also like, there's no excuse for you taking care of what you got to take care of.
Yeah.
Right? Not only was he locked up, he wasn't even in California, he was in Colorado. Like there's no reason for you not to show up and do what you got to do for your family. And so I was grateful for that, but it was a very different time. But I loved it. And then when I think about high school, the real like big pivotal moments for me, one was getting accepted into colleges, right? And so that was a beautiful time. But it was that SAT, ACT.
Ugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, deep roll of the eyes.
Yeah.
So the SAT, I got all the waivers, took it like 800 million times. And then the ACT, I did the same thing, but because of this neurospiciness, I would sleep the whole first half of the ACT.
I love that. You should put that on a shirt. That's the shirt right there. Neurospicy. That is just, listen, you better go claim it right now. Go buy it. Yeah. Neurospicy.
I literally fell asleep the whole first part of the ACT. I'm not even gonna hold you. I did like 3 questions and I was, because it was freezing in there. It was all at the front. And you know, the ACT is the longest part, is the first part.
I didn't even take them. That wasn't my time frame.
Because
we just had SATs back then.
So the ACT was something new they was testing and they need to not do that. Anyway, I did that, and it was interesting because I am Seventh-day Adventist, right? For those who don't know what that means, I worship on the Sabbath, which is Saturday. So Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. And so I didn't take the test with everybody else. I had to take my test on Sundays at the church. Right? And so I was taking my test, and when I tell you I was asleep, it was ridiculous. I was so asleep on them tests, it wasn't even funny. But that part was interesting to me because my scores were good. They was all right, but I wasn't really thinking much of it. But going back to connecting mom and the book reports, I passed every time I had to write that essay portion. I got one of the highest scores. And like the comments they would leave for me was lovely. They were like, she can write. She should be and I was like, I don't really want to do this. I just know how to because I had to. And so it was very interesting. And then I remember I had to give a speech and I was nervous. And then I thought back to SDA. All the stuff I had already done for church prepared me for that. So I say all this to say, because all of these little moments became these larger moments, right? And I think that when we take time to sit back and reflect, we can think of like, I got that from that and I'm grateful. I can do that because of this.
Exactly.
I can talk to the people I need to talk to and make things clear that are often muddy just because of these other things that are oftentimes we don't connect them. And so those, I think, were some of the big moments that shifted and made me. Then I went to school in Florida, right? Literally on the other side of the globe.
Right.
Instead of gaining 15 to 25 pounds, I literally lost like 25 pounds. I came back, my grandmama was like, they not feeding my baby. What is they doing? Because everything was different. They got pickled pig feet and pickled sausages.
Right.
I ain't even heard of tilapia. I was like, what is a tilapia? I said, nah, y'all playing. What is going on? And so the food was different. The culture was different. We are the highest of 7 hills, and there literally are 7 hills. And so you have to walk up and down the hills, and you got to figure out how to get to school. And as a freshman, I had to walk back home. 8 p.m. class was done, and I had to walk back to my dorms, and it was dark. Because we talking about like South old school, like it's dark. There's no street lights.
You can't see your hand in front of you.
You can't see nothing. And I'm already dark skinned. I said, I need some more dark skin light because I don't. How are you supposed to find me out here? I'm blending in with the background. So I'm walking and I said, this is not safe for people. Like, this is bananas.
Right.
And so I went back, and that was going back to me advocating and my parents like pushing me to do that,
Mm-hmm.
I advocated in front of SGA for us to have, I said, either we need to have escorts,
Yeah.
we need to have street lights, we need to have something else because
Nice.
this is not
That's
safe.
that voice.
And literally
Yeah.
it happened.
Yep.
So they would pull up with their little go-karts
Yeah.
and they would come, you know, and get us and take us home. They made sure they put more lights on the pathway. It
Yeah.
was a beautiful time and I was so grateful for that moment. And so that was another pivotal moment.
Yeah.
And then you already know the rest from everything else.
Yeah.
I think my last big pivotal moment was me and snacks. Everybody who knows me know I love food. I love to eat. And I was talking to this woman, and she is an advisor at FAM. She's not my counselor, though.
Yep.
I started talking to her because she always had snacks. She always had apples, and she always had little snacks and fruit. And so I would go in her room, and I would eat, and I would be rude. So I sit and talk to her, right? And I got to know her. Literally, I talked to her every single day for the whole 4 years. And she was not my counselor, which is bananas.
No, you weren't coming up like the wildlife.
I literally,
just to get a little bit of, coming up like the forest animals. To get
like the monkeys in the thing, they be jumping. I grabbed it and ran. That's literally me. I was like, hey, how you doing? I see that apple over there. Ain't been touched. What's happening?
Right.
And so there was that. It was beautiful. But because of that, she said, oh, Jameelah, I nominated you for something. I was like, okay, well, what is it for? And she was like, I'm not going to tell you. Let me just see, like, if you get it or whatever, I'll tell you. I said, okay, like, hey, you know me at this point. You know me for 4 years now. So, okay. And she came back. She was like, hey, you got it. I said, I got what? And she was like, I nominated you for the White House internship. I was like, lovely. How much does that pay? And she was like, oh, it doesn't. Oh, you should have said that nomination. You got to send that nomination to somebody else. It don't pay.
Right.
Oh, no, ma'am. At that point, I was working for the state of Florida. I was chilling. And I called my father. And I called my village because I had my grandfather, my mom, my dad, my godparents. It was like all clicked up on the phone. And they was like, okay, tell us what you got to tell us.
Right.
And so I told them, and my grandfather was like, heck no, they ain't paying. My grandfather's also a Republican. Right. You don't need to work for them doggone Democrats, right? And then the rest of my family was like, I think that'll be a good idea. I think you should do that. How long is it? That makes sense. My mother's like, I already called your cousin. You can stay with him. I'm like, y'all are doing a lot. So I ended up saying yes, and it was under the Obama administration. And so I worked for him for some time, and I moved to Maryland. And I lived with my cousin, and I took the train into DC, and I did that for some time. And I said, well, I got a little more time left before I have to start Bank of America because I graduated a year earlier. And I said, so what else can I do? And going back to the advocating, I literally called all of the representatives on the House and the Senate side that were in California or Florida. And I was like, it's summertime. Do y'all need an intern? This is what I do. This is what I've been doing, da, da, da. And Kareem Brown, good old Kareem Brown, we both went to FAMU, not at the same time, but we both went to FAMU. And she called me back. Actually, Rochelle called me back, which is her deputy chief of staff. She called me back. And I started working, and I became a senior intern for her. And I would help her write issues on education, women's rights, things like that.
All the way back to your mom's book reports.
Once again.
Wow.
Because had I not had that, I would not have been able to just jump in there like that. And so all of it came full circle. It was a beautiful time.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people all the time that momentum is the sum of moments. Right.
That's beautiful.
And you having these moments, you don't know how they're adding up. You don't know the beautiful collisions that's going to cause later. You don't understand. And it's stuff you don't even want to do half the time.
I'm trying to tell you.
I used to always tell my students when I was in higher ed that, the job you hate will prepare you for the one you love.
Yep.
Right. And you don't understand how this is all somehow going to interconnect. But these stupid book reports about these books that I love, but the work that I didn't want to do would add up to me writing, working in the White House, and then writing with individuals, other policymakers, right? Writing for them. And so it's just amazing to see how the things you don't want to do are fruitful for the things you do want to do. Like you get to eat from, those are just the seeds. But you don't eat the seed, you eat the fruit. You just gotta wait. The distance is time. Right? You're planting the seeds by writing the reports. And as much as we don't want to do it. My dad at one point, I had some teachers who were kind of like forming a coup on me when I was in school. And my dad had to go up there, and he was like, all right, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm gonna check your homework every time before you turn it in.
Right.
And if I say it's good,
It's good.
then right. And now I have the ammunition to go and deal with them.
Yep.
So what he would make me do is do my homework 6, 7, 8, 9 times. Rewrite it again. Nope. Your T don't look T enough.
Right.
Your I don't look I enough. He had me, but you know what? My homework was spotless.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when I turned it in, they bet not say nothing about it. Okay, because it was irrevocable.
Right.
Okay. And what it taught me was the beauty of excellence.
Yeah.
And excellence takes time.
Yes, it
You might
does.
not get excellence the first time.
Right.
You got to do it again.
Yep.
You got to do it when you don't feel like doing it.
Mhm.
You got to right. But to the success that I've, and I'm not where I'm going to be, but I'm not where I was either. Right.
Right.
But to this formula has added to the success that I've achieved.
Right.
Being able to understand what is excellent
Right.
and what does it look like for me,
Yeah.
right? And so kudos to your mom for planting those
Absolutely.
seeds. Those are seeds that will continue to yield
Yeah.
forever and ever,
Absolutely.
right? Okay, so let's shift gears here just a little
Yeah.
bit. When you start to think about and let me just juxtapose your 12-year-old self
Yes.
to your current self.
Yes.
Okay. You talked about a pivot that happened in middle school.
Yes.
Okay. How would your 12-year-old self feel about your current self?
My 12-year-old self would love the way other people speak about me, but would hate the way I speak about me.
Let's unpack that. We can't let that just sit.
I mean, because I think that it's so interesting the way your friends see you, or the people that love you see you,
Yeah.
and how you may not always see yourself that way.
Yeah.
And so I hurt my own feelings every time. It's crazy. And nobody else does it. And I'm in the room like, who talking to me like that? And it's
Right.
you talking to you like that.
Yes.
And so my 12-year-old self would be like, come on
Mm.
now, Mila, like do better.
Right.
But I feel that what my 12-year-old self would love that I'm doing is I'm doing it scared, because I do not like risk. Me and risk ain't friends. We ain't never been friends. I don't fool around with it.
Yeah.
And really, when you think about it, a lot of it comes from the community I grew up in. You
Mhm.
can't take no risk.
Can't take risks.
This
No,
is
you
it.
better do the sure thing.
That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you sure that that's $4.95? Because I only got $5.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I give you this 20 quarters. I want my 5 cents back now.
Mhm.
And so, like, it has to be sure. I don't have that space to kind of take risk.
Yeah.
And so me doing things scared, even me being here,
Yeah.
So that's a whole different conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I just don't. This is not my thing.
Yeah.
And so, I think that that's how my 12-year-old self would feel. Like,
Okay.
we're
Very
almost
proud
there.
of how other people see you.
Absolutely, but
And-
like, we need to work on how you see you, sis.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think informs that outside of like your
Yeah.
family's pressure from their family, or like the need to be sure from it? What do you think that comes from?
Because failure is not an option for me as a Black woman.
Mm.
Failure is not an option for me as a person with neurodiversity. Failure is not an option for me at all.
Yeah.
And so, because you don't always get to make it right. You don't always get to do
A
it
second
again.
chance.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so now you've done this and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
And so that is a thing. But the thing that I always hear, 2 things I always hear from my dad that he always said,
Mhm.
the same thing will make you laugh or make you cry.
That's
and
true.
the same people you see going up, you'll see coming down.
That's right.
Right. And so I'm always making sure that even in my failures, there's lesson, there's learning, there's growth.
Yeah.
But I'm not the person that like, okay, that happened. I learned from it. I can move on.
Yeah.
I hold that and keep that with me.
Yeah.
So it remembers, like, oh no, I remember.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember where my heart broke.
Right.
Like, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna let you do that again.
There you go. Yeah.
And so that I think that is where it comes from. I think the other part though, like when I really think about it as well, is that when everything is on you to be the one,
Yeah.
you really gotta do it right.
Yeah.
I have to be careful with who I talk to and what I say. I have to be careful with who I hang out with. I have to be careful with
Mhm.
how I show up in spaces. And sometimes that even means not showing up at all,
Yeah.
because I have too much to lose and there's too many people betting on me.
Yep.
right, and holding me up.
Yeah.
So,
Let me just submit this though to you. All
yes.
right. And you could take it or leave it.
No,
But
please.
what I'll say to you is this: failure is not failure when you're equipped.
Mm,
When
okay.
you are ill-equipped
Yeah.
and you fail, you
Yeah.
have nothing to fall on, right?
Mm,
You fail and you continue to fall
right.
because there's nowhere to land.
Yep.
When you are equipped,
Mhm.
it's no different than these CEOs that will run a company, a
Yep.
multi-trillion-dollar company,
Right.
and run it into the ground, and
Yep.
then guess what? Over here, then the next one,
Yep.
running that one into the right.
Right.
Or an artist who might have a bad album,
Yeah.
right? And they have 3 bad albums consecutively, but
my
that
God.
next one, there's juice on that one.
Right.
Them 3 ones that they just failed on,
Yeah.
they informed the 4th one that's a success.
Right.
So, but because they're equipped, they didn't fail.
Right.
They informed what was next, right? If you look at Michael Jackson's catalog
Yes.
when he left the Jackson 5,
Yes.
and before he came out with which one was for
Unbreakable,
Off the Wall? I think
Invincible.
Off the
Oh,
Wall.
Off the Wall.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that was the first one. His
Yeah, that
first,
was.
if
I think so. We
yeah,
don't know.
okay, yeah,
Okay.
y'all know what I'm saying. Okay, the first one that Quincy Jones produced.
Yeah.
Okay, he had 4 terrible albums in between there.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
nobody knows the name of them,
Yeah.
including his family.
That part.
Okay, 4 terrible albums.
Yeah.
He gets with Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
Boom.
Bomb.
It informs you, right? But he's already equipped.
Mhm.
He's still the same Mike.
Right.
He just didn't have his team with him. He didn't have the but he's already equipped. And so to alleviate some of that pressure, hopefully, I would love for you to think of it as though because you're equipped,
Yeah.
I can take a risk,
Yeah.
and it's not failing, it's informing.
Mm.
I have more information today than I did yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I had to tell my parents because they they both worked, my dad worked 40 years for the power company. My mom, she had daycare for a while,
Yeah.
and she did a couple of nonprofit jobs for a
Yeah.
while, whatever. And so, they're very accustomed to you work hard, you
Yep.
get a check, and
Yep.
you do okay.
Mhm.
Now I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I have to look at things very differently for tax purposes.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can't get money and just hold it, you got to spend it.
Come on.
Okay. You have
Right.
to put it back into the business,
Right.
or else Uncle Sam says, hey,
Yeah.
I need more money from you
Right.
because you don't just get to keep your money.
That
right.
part.
Okay. So my point to you is I had this big soiree that I threw
Yeah.
here in Tulsa, and dropped an absorbent amount of money. This is a couple years ago.
Is my invite still with the carrier pigeon?
It is.
Or
It is.
okay,
Yep.
lovely,
Yeah, they
lovely.
got,
Just want to make sure.
I'm telling
It
you,
probably got lost in flight. Got it.
USPS, they do all kind of crazy
All the
stuff,
things.
But but we did this wonderful soiree. We had a
Yeah.
few hundred people here on Guthrie. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. We flew people in from all around the world.
Lovely.
It was amazing, right? And you know what? And so I made the mistake of telling my mom, hey, I don't know. I've never spent this kind of money before.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
dropped X amount of dollars on
Yeah.
this weekend or whatever. And she said, what?
Right.
You could have went to Dollar General. You could have
Yeah.
and I was like, no, Mom, it don't work that way.
You're right.
This isn't the family cookout.
Right.
This is a company. And I have to burn this money.
Right.
Not burn in a literal
yes,
sense, but
yes,
if I'm business,
Yeah.
I have to be able to reinvest this money. This is a
Absolutely.
reinvestment
Right.
of dollars. And as it showcases what we can do,
Right.
guess what happens? More money comes in.
Exactly.
And so when the more money came in, she's like, oh, that's how that works.
Yeah.
I said, you can't keep all your money
Yeah,
in this little
right. Yeah.
it don't
See,
work.
It don't.
It don't work that
In a
way,
little coin
right?
purse. Yeah.
Yes. And so my point to you is, and I feel the same thing when I moved out here from the East Coast to the Midwest. And I'm like, I don't know, a soul here. It's I moved here sight unseen, the weekend of a Trump rally, weekend of Juneteenth. Like it was crazy 5 years ago, middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect, right? But what I did know is that I was equipped.
Mm.
And there was nothing that was going to happen here that I wasn't already built for. There was nothing that could be thrown at me here that I don't already have the juice for. Matter of fact, let me tap into that juice. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go. Let me get into my bag and go even deeper, right? And so as things were thrown at me, I wasn't seen as a problem. I was seen as a solution because I understood that no matter what the challenge is, I'm already equipped. And so, and you know this, you are highly equipped. You have the degrees, you have all the man's things. But more importantly, you got that grit in there. That's why we talked about. I don't usually ask people about that. But you got that in the sports world, we would call it that dog, right? Yeah. Where you gonna go get it. You gonna dig it out, you're gonna make it happen.
Figure it out.
Yes. Up, in, right, up or down. And so because of that, no matter what you're about to do next, you're already equipped.
I'm grateful. I received that. Thank you so much, brother. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know this is your podcast, but
can I ask you? Sure.
So how did you develop your mindset for that, right? To realize that you were equipped and could do it, and when nothing gonna happen that you wasn't already prepared for?
Yeah. To be honest with you, it was God.
Yeah.
It's God. It's affirmation from God, and confirmation. What I'll say also is that, like I said, my dad, both my parents equipped me in different ways. But my dad is Mufasa.
Yeah.
Okay. He's Mufasa.
Yeah.
And when he, when he roars, the neighborhood wake up.
Yeah.
He's Mufasa, and so I don't have a choice but to be.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Right.
This ain't gonna be nothing else but that, right?
That's
And so what I have because of that, Jameelah, I have a blessed assurance.
Yeah.
I have I don't double step on me.
Right.
I don't pump fake on me.
Mm-hmm.
And people who know me, they know what they getting.
Yeah.
You can like it or lump it.
Right.
But I'm me. And I've gotten that from my dad being able. I learned how to read by reading chess books with my dad.
Oh, wow.
He was an avid chess player. And he said, in order for you to, if you want to play, if you want to play the game,
right,
you gotta read the book.
You gotta
read the book.
Yeah.
So I'll be sitting there fumbling over in the
Yeah.
What's that word?
Right.
You know the words.
Right.
Sound it out.
Sound it out.
I ain't telling you, right? That's how I had to, that's how it was under pressure.
Right.
Right. But what I've learned over time is that there's a clear difference between pressure and stress. Okay. Pressure gives you energy, stress takes your energy. And so my dad always applying pressure on me, making me having to solve, making me have to step up to the plate. Even though I wasn't Michael Jordan, I was telling a group of men the other day, I told them, I said, I told them it was a group of young men, high school young men I taught at a summit. And I was saying, I wasn't the reason why we won the game. Like, trust me, like I won championships in all of my sports. Everything I played at, we won a championship. I said, but I wasn't the reason why we won. But you wasn't winning without me.
That part.
Okay,
right. There it is.
I'm going to make my contribution. We had the Michael Jordan guy. That's cool. But I told them, I said, listen, I'm Draymond. Okay, you not winning.
Draymond Green.
I'm gonna shut somebody down. My guy's not scoring, but whatever I can contribute to the success of the greater good is what I'm going to bring. Right. And so my point to you is, it's all in the. I think it's all in the authenticity, like me being unapologetically myself. And actually the last probably 15 years of my career, maybe 12 years of my career, I've been paid to be me. I've written my own job descriptions because they're paying me to be me. And the more I lean into being me, the more money I make and the more opportunities that come. And so it's not because I'm wonderful. It's because I'm aware. I am realized and actualized, right? And so, so I think that's where that assurance kind of comes from. And I think it looks different for different people. But what I will say is that whatever level you're on, the next level needs you to be sure. It needs you to be sure because when you get up there, the air gets thin. And as the air gets thin, you have to have the endurance, the tolerance, the chutzpah, all the things in order to withstand what it feels like at altitude, alone, misunderstood sometimes as seen as a threat, sometimes seen as a disruptor, sometimes like there's many slings and arrows that comes with you walking in your authenticity because most people are not doing that.
Right.
And they feel a level of insecurity, so they project that onto you,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a lot of things that go with that, but that's a long answer to a short question. I hope
Yes,
yeah.
you answered. Can I ask you,
Sure. Yep.
do you feel like that
She didn't turn the camera, y'all.
I
This
know,
is
I'm so sorry. Okay, but do you feel like positionality plays a part into authenticity and when it can show up and when not? What are your thoughts there?
in terms of positionality, in
Mhm.
terms of work in the workplace
Yes.
or in societal roles or
Mm.
what?
Both. 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 Yeah.
I think it does if you let it.
Mm. Okay.
I think it does if you let it. I've had
Okay.
several um employers that I
Mhm.
had to manage up.
Mhm.
And I had to say, okay, I heard your plan
Yeah.
and your plan is amazing.
Yeah.
Great. And
Right.
here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to prove to you. And if I'm wrong,
Right.
I'll eat all the lumps.
Right.
But if I'm right, we're going to rock this way.
Right.
Do you trust me?
Yeah.
Because of my pedigree, they've said, you know
Yes.
what? Okay, I trust you. Cool.
Right.
I rock it this way. We all get to sing together.
Right.
We all get the awards together, right?
Mm.
And it doesn't mean I'm always right. Sometimes I have been wrong and I had to pay for that,
Yeah.
right? But I'm willing to bet on me in that way,
Mhm.
right? And so like I said, I think that positionality does play a role if you allow it to.
Okay.
But most people who you would dare to call a hero or a shero,
Mhm.
if you have those folks,
Mhm.
they had to do it regardless of position.
Mhm.
Right? And
Right.
so that's what I'm saying. If you let it do it, it will.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna ask you no more questions.
No, that's okay. It's
But I
okay.
got some more, but I'm
No,
not gonna ask you no more.
that's good. We can talk offline about that stuff.
Yes, I'm grateful.
So my question, I have
Yes.
another question for you.
Yes.
So I ask every guest this, and we're getting down to the wire here.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time in your life where you had to hold on to hope.
Hmm.
What were the ingredients of that moment, and then what was the outcome?
I had to hold on to hope, and I feel like that happens all the time.
Okay.
So, um, I'll say 2 different ones. So, my first one, I know people are always like, "Jameelah be going hard for FAMU."
Mhm.
And I do. Obviously, I'm an HBCU grad, that
Mhm.
there's that. But the reason is because I was supposed to be there, and I did not realize that until I left after freshman year.
Mhm.
I was not gonna go back. I didn't tell nobody that. I was just internal in my mind. I was like, "I'm not going back. It's expensive. It's too much. I don't know about this food. People weird. They got their own lingo. I'm
Mhm.
good. The black and the red ants eat you up. It's ridiculous." Okay. I was like, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm just about to go right on back home, and then I'll go to Cal State, such and such, and I'll be all right."
Yeah.
And then I remember I was talking to this guy. He invited me to this revival,
Mhm.
and I wasn't gonna go because my head was hurting and I was tired. And then I was like, okay, if I'm gonna go, I got to be cute. So I had to go home and get cute, get myself together.
Mhm.
Anybody know me? Time is a construct in my world. Okay,
Okay.
so I showed up
Yeah.
when I showed up. Okay,
Right.
and I got there. And they were doing what they do.
Yeah.
And one of the elders stood up and was like, I don't know who this message is for, but somebody is struggling whether they should go back to school or not.
Mm.
And the Lord is telling me to tell you to go back to school.
Mhm.
And I'm looking around like, what is the setup? I ain't got the time for the
Mhm.
Muppet Show. Like,
Right.
who he talking about? And then
Right.
he said, well, it's somebody who's struggling with like an out of state school. And he
Mhm.
looked confused, like, I know all y'all, and ain't none of y'all in school, let
Right.
alone out of state
Right.
school.
Right.
Right. So I was like, oh, okay. And I said, all right. And this was a pivot for me because I experienced this in a different way. This is my first time experiencing the Lord in this way. Okay. So I said, all right, Lord, this is it. Mind you, because I wasn't coming back. I don't have no car. I don't have no class. I don't have no place to stay. I don't have
Mhm.
none of that.
Yep.
I said, all of this needs to line up and it needs to be smooth and easy.
Mhm.
Literally, I got the job at Bank of America on Stadium Way, which is the one I wanted to work at with the amount I wanted to get paid. My mechanic called me Bozy and he was like, oh, I got this new car and you can have this and this is it. And then I found my other friend and I didn't even know that he was a manager at the apartment complex. He had an apartment open. I went there. I got into all my classes. I got all my books. Like everything was like easy peasy lemon squeezy. I was like, all right, I'm supposed to be here. My holding on to hope there was one. I hope that everything worked out when I got off this plane.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
I literally bought a one-way ticket back and I was like, okay, because I don't
Right.
know what we finna do.
Right.
And so there was that. And then there was the hope that it was the right decision and that I was gonna be here for the next 3 years and that everything was not only gonna work out for me here, but work out for my family back home.
Mhm.
Cause I was like, These out-of-state fees are a lot. It's a lot going on. And so there was that. I had to hold on to hope there. Another time that I had to hold on to hope was when, and I'm only saying this because of the original question that you asked me, like, and how you kind of set new voices up. Um, but I had to go back home to be a caregiver for my grandfather and my father, which is why I was gone for a long time, and I went back to California. So in me doing that with them, I had to hold on to so many parts of hope. Um, but it was a different type of hope because it didn't involve me. I had to take myself out of it. This is what they're going through, and
Wow.
whatever their decision is, I have to hope that it works out and that
Yeah.
everything is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And even though as much as I wanna, like, hold on to it, I don't want it to happen to them. I want them to stay around forever and all these other things. I was like, "Okay, I just hope that I'm making the right decision and, like, releasing this and allowing them to have that control and me following their play, not the other way around." So, um, in me doing that, both men have transitioned, but it was a time of hope, hopeless, and and hopeful, right? All of the things at one time, and it was a beautiful experience. But those are like some of the times where I really had to like
Yeah.
hold on to it. And
Yeah.
obviously, me coming out here to Tulsa, I didn't know. When I tell you I heard about Oklahoma, I was like, first of all, are we free? Okay.
Right.
Second of all, it's tumbleweeds.
That's what I thought, tumbleweeds.
Right. I was
Yeah.
like, if they on the horse and the carriage,
I
like
thought the
what?
same thing.
I said, they got an
Yeah.
airport, international. They got a
Yeah.
lot of nerve.
Yeah.
And so when I got here, and I was like, ooh, Tulsa. Now I love everything Tulsa.
Yeah.
But when I first got here, I was like, ooh, I only got 8 weeks. I hope this all work out like it's supposed to, because this is different.
Yeah.
And it has. So those are some of the times I would say.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Real quick, I just want to do do you have any last words and a call to action for our listeners?
So
And then what are your social handles, if you want to share those?
lovely. So I love how you say social handles, and I literally just realized that Facebook had a messenger. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. So I'm not the social media person,
Right.
but on LinkedIn it is Jameelah Stuckey, my first and last name. Stuckey, like you're stuck to something, EY. And then everything else is blessed humbled. So blessed and humbled put together. Blessed humbled.
Bless humble.
And I would say that my takeaway, I want to start with that. I know you didn't ask me that, but I want to
That's
tell you
okay.
I'm taking some away.
Yep.
The piece about the being equipped and being sure, and the next level needs me to be sure. I appreciate you saying that. So thank you for that. I'm taking that away. My call to action, I went to a Trust and Practice Summit with the Aspen Institute in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yep.
I was just there. Lovely, lovely summit. And I said, what does this look like for me to create this in Tulsa? So I'm working on like figuring out what that looks like for me to bring this
Nice.
type of thing to Tulsa. But then I said, well, why is it that we don't have trust? And how do you rebuild it after it's lost? Can you? Because the Pew Research people came there, they had all kind of data points and numbers about everything else but that. And I was like, okay, how do we do that? And so I would say that my like call to action would be see how and if there's been trust broken, that you can rebuild it and regain it, because we can go further together. We can do more with each other,
Yeah.
right? The other thing that I would say is something from AALA, which is two things. One, live your life by design, not by default. And two, find out how good you can be, right? And
That's
whatever that
good.
looks like.
Yeah.
And so those are those pieces that I would kind of say. And so I think that um, that summit really did open up like a lot of things for me, a lot of ideas and a lot of other things that I'm percolating on that I think would be great for our community.
Yeah.
But that one thing, it left me with that trust thing. And I was like, ooh, what does that look like? How does that show up? And how do we rebuild that? So I think that's what I would say.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you heard it from the woman herself, the one and only Jameelah Stuckey. Thank you so much for your time, Jameelah.
Thank you.
We will be back with another edition of New Voices soon. I'm so glad that you were able to tune in. Please take some time to follow us on social media. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And until then, continue to be encouraged. Your next needs your now. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newuunlimited.com. That is NEWU Unlimited.com. Follow us on social media at New You Unlimited on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our programs for personal and professional development. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.